The history of architecture in New York is a fascinating narrative of constant innovation, reflecting the city's economic growth, cultural shifts, and technological advancements. Beginning with the colonial and early American period from the 1600s to the 1800s, early Dutch and English settlers constructed simple, practical structures, mainly wooden houses and brick buildings. The Dutch influence is notably seen in the gabled roofs of structures like the Wyckoff House, 1652 in Brooklyn. As time progressed, Federal-style and Georgian buildings emerged in the late 1700s, such as Fraunces Tavern, 1719, incorporating symmetry and classical proportions. The 19th century was a time of growth and industrialization. The early 1800s were dominated by the Greek Revival style, evident in the row houses in Greenwich Village. Gothic Revival followed, introducing ornate stonework and pointed arches with structures like Trinity Church, 1846. The mid-1800s saw the rise of cast-iron architecture in Soho, with buildings like the Hallwart Building, 1857, which allowed for large windows and intricate facades. Beaux-Arts grandeur flourished towards the late 1800s, with landmarks such as Grand Central Terminal, 1913, though the style began earlier, reflecting an opulent design approach. The introduction of steel frame construction in the early 20th century led to some of the world's first skyscrapers during the early skyscrapers and the 20th century boom, 1900s, 1950s. Iconic high-rises like the Flatiron Building, 1902, emerged. The Art Deco movement of the 1920s and 1930s gifted the skyline masterpieces like the Chrysler Building, 1930, and the Empire State Building, 1931. The international style of the mid-century, led by Lever House, 1952, and the Seagram Building, 1958, emphasized glass curtain walls and minimalism. With the advent of the postmodernism and late 20th century, 1960s, 1990s, brutalism came forth with buildings like the Whitney Museum, 1966, now the Met Brewer. Postmodernism, in contrast, reacted against the starkness of modernism, adding decorative elements as seen in the AT&T Building, 1984, now 550, Madison Avenue. The World Trade Center's Twin Towers, 1973, were symbols of modernism until their destruction in 2001. In the 21st century, supertalls and sustainability became the focus. The skyline continued to be peppered with glass and steel towers, with super tall buildings like One World Trade Center, 2014, and Central Park Tower, 2021. Meanwhile, the High Line project, opened in 2009, revitalized industrial spaces into modern urban landscapes. Recent developments emphasize sustainable and green architecture, as seen in the Edge and the Spiral, which prioritize energy efficiency and eco-friendly design. New York's architectural evolution not only reflects its status as a global metropolis, but also its capacity to constantly reinvent itself while preserving its historic legacy.